Hey, welcome back to Vaguely Adults. You have two of your favorite vaguely looking adults here today. I'm one of your hosts, Sarana, and
I'm Shirley.
And as per one of the last episodes, I have no idea when it was released, we mentioned that we were going to go over some tips, tricks, hacks on how we got through college, how we got through university. Disclaimer, some of these things that we mention, we do not condone 100%. We do not
do as I say and not as I do.
Done. Yeah. Just wanted to put that disclaimer out there. So, what was your university experience like? Name, age, where you went to school.
Fun fact.
Icebreaker.
Oh Lord, I just want to say that when you were like disclaimer, all I wanted to do was please do not do any of the please do not any of the following things that we say. We are professionals at doing absolutely nothing. Thank you and enjoy the following video. Like,
oh yeah.
All right. So my name is Shirley. Hello. I am a lady never reveals her age. Just kidding. I'm 26. It's everywhere. And I went to Baruch College. Why?
Beyond anyone.
Beyond me, yeah. But I did go there. I did graduate. What my GPA was, we won't talk about. Okay, all we need to know...
Listen, a woman never
reveals her GPA. All you need to know is that degree starts with D. That could go so many ways. Don't go that way.
Keep those comments to yourself?
Yes, even though they're hilarious. But yeah, I switched majors midway through my college experience. So I was a international business major for the first 2 years, or that was my intended major for the first 2 years. Took all the Zicklin classes, which is the business program. And then as I was going into Zicklin, I was like, I absolutely hate this. So I went to the advisor's office and I was like, hey, I'm actually switching majors. He said, what's your new major going to be? And I said, psychology. Yeah, I took that intro class. Yeah, let's do that. And that is how I chose my major.
I did not know that.
And mind you, I got a C in the intro to psychology class, but it was actually like pretty interesting stuff. So I was just like, YOLO, let's just do it. That's just going to be my whole major. I'll figure it out afterwards. Then I did all the classes in a time span of a year and a half. Mm-hmm. There was one semester that I did 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. classes, and it was not a fun time.
Uh-huh.
But all my friends were in Zicklin in the business program, so a lot of them related to like the things that I was going through or the classes that I was taking. Didn't really see my friends too much one of the semesters because I was doing 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. classes. And it was not a fun time. But I ended up really liking all the classes that I took, aside from one or two professors. Ended up falling in love with one of my professors. That's not how I graduated, though. Don't get it twisted.
Ended up falling in love with one of my professors.
Ended up falling in love with one of her professors.
I hope you're doing well wherever you are now.
Okay, we're just going to mention names.
I mean... Do you know how many there are in the world?
You know how many taught you? One. One.
Do they know that?
Oh, okay. Too many to count taught her. Okay, I guess we're just name dropping. I will not be dropping the name of the other professor just in case because we're not going to do that.
Hey, we're all graduated. We're all adults.
Absolutely not. That's embarrassing. Woo. I did have a professor who teased me about another professor though. Because I made the mistake of telling him, like, oh, yeah, I took a class with Professor A, and I actually had, like, a huge crush on him, even though he's not attractive, just because he was so passionate about the subject.
Do I know this professor?
Yes, you know both of them. And Professor...
You say the name. I'll bleep them. I promise I'll bleep them.
I told about it.
No!
I told him about another professor. I think his name was...
I don't remember.
He taught my personalities and individual differences class. But he... So we'll call him Professor S, and we'll say Professor A. I told Professor A that I took a class with Professor S, and I had a huge thing for him because he's just so passionate about the subject. And so Professor A was like, you talking about Professor B? Or Professor S? And I was just like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, we're friends. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, dude, we just had lunch like last, because you know the psychology department is very small.
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, dude, like we're friends. He's like, yo, you want me to tell him? I'll tell him right now. And we were at like a psychology fair in the school. So he was literally across the room. That's why it came up. Because I was like, oh, I took a class with him and I really liked him, blah, blah, blah. So Professor A, being the asshole that he is, I love him to death.
Or best wingman out there.
Absolutely not. Professor S is married. Yeah. Professor A just wanted to tease me and he just calls him over. He's like, hey, Professor S. And I'm like, please stop it right now. Please stop it right now. He's like, yeah, hey, man. And then just keeps walking and just looks at me like,
sick.
He was an ass. I love him so much, though. And then the same Professor S, one time I wore a Christmas sweater that said bite me on it. And it had like a gingerbread man that had like the arm bitten off. And I came late to his class, right? So I opened the door and I tried to sneak in. And he literally stopped lecturing, looked at me and was like, cool sweater. And then went back to teaching. And I was just like, okay, please stop staring at me now.
No words. Anyway, so I'm Sarana. I'm 25.
Yeah.
25. Went to Baruch College. University, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I started off at Hunter for my freshman year on a pre-engineering track. None of the classes I took were pre-engineering facing. I did some basic anthropology, which was super cool because we went over evolution and evolutionary traits, biological evolution. And I really thought that that's what I was going to go into if engineering wouldn't have worked out, because it was a pre-engineering course and I really wanted to do mechanical engineering, inspired by my uncle, who is a big businessman and does all that stuff, which he did chemical engineering. I really liked cars.
Wow.
Before
really?
Even getting into Formula One. Anyway.
Never guessed.
Yeah. So I thought, ideally, I would go into engineering and then be able to work at one of these big car manufacturers. Was really depressed. I had only one friend at that school, and we were on 2 different tracks. I also took some philosophy courses that were pretty interesting, but it wasn't my vibe. And I was like, okay, hold on, let's reevaluate what's going on. And I applied for a transfer. I was like, okay, my resources here are great if I just do general business. So let's just go to Baruch and figure out things from there. So I went to Baruch under the premise of doing international business.
And so the connections begin.
So my intended major was international business. Was doing my best to get into Zicklin, which is the business school. Failed calculus and almost statistics. Got kicked out of my summer courses because I failed calculus. I was meant to take 2 other Zicklin courses that summer. So summer of 2015. Yeah. That was a whole hassle and a half. I cried. One of my professors ended up letting me submit some sort of paper or some extra work to bump my grade just enough to get into a different calculus course for the summer so that I can get at least a B in calculus so I can get into Zicklin. I did it. I worked my ass off that summer, and for that summer, I was a calculus god. I was so amazing at advanced calc. It was crazy. And then don't ask me anything about matrices or functions ever again. I don't remember anything.
I blacked it out after I took it.
Some serious trauma.
Yeah.
And then fall of 2015, I joined joined an organization.
First of all, it sounds like you were not going to say organization because you used a soft G, not a hard G.
I joined this organization that I'm no longer part of, but it was a very intensive experience, and yeah, it really put me on a track to do finance. And I thought that's something that I was interested in, but I wasn't interested in it. I was just interested in the prospects of earning a lot of money really fast. And then I didn't do that, and I went down the marketing route. So I did marketing management as my intended major, and I decided, hey, psychology seems pretty fun, and I want to know what's wrong with me, so let's do some self-diagnosing.
Connection number 2.
And then I ended up meeting this person in my lovely personality and individual differences class. It's a mouthful of
only it was.
It's a mouthful of a name for a course. And I met one of my favorite professors ever.
Mine too.
She wasn't even in his class.
I walked our mutual friends to that class every day.
Yeah, so I met this mutual friend who was best friends with Shirley at the time, and it was like, hey guys, I'm like really stressed. And they kind of just took me in as like a little duckling under their wing. Yeah.
I forgot that we both met, like me and the other mutual friend both met you the same semester. Because it was the same semester.
Yeah.
And in the morning you had a class with her, and in the evening was the class with me.
That we never went to. So
we didn't see each other until mid-semester. Love that for us. Wow.
But we used to hang out.
Really said.
We hung out all the time in the common area of where student government used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Probably still is, I don't know. But yeah, so how to pass university and tips and tricks and hacks, not our stories. Don't fail your classes and have to take a class crammed into a summer. It's my hot tip.
Don't switch majors midway and then cram 1,000 classes in 2 semesters is my tip.
Don't take a class that starts at 7:20 p.m. And don't drink before going to class.
Don't take Saturday classes or Friday classes. Well, I guess it depends on your school. Definitely don't take Saturday classes. Don't do that to yourself. Don't take 4-hour classes.
Oh, I know it's going to look appealing to have just one class. And
it's such a headache.
I almost died. It'll look super appealing to have one class just on a chunk of your Monday morning. Do not do it. Do not take an 8 a.m. class.
Mm-mm. You're not going to go.
8:30, 8:45, maybe. Don't start at 8 a.m. if you don't have to.
Oh, also don't, like, if you can.
Only if you're a morning person.
I was going to say,
reconsider.
Like, if you can afford to, because, some people work, so I understand they have to take classes around their work schedule. But, like, if you don't have that issue, also don't take, like, the last class of the day, because you will be so exhausted by the time you get to it if you've had classes earlier in the day. And even the professors are tired, the students are tired, and it's not a vibe.
Share notes with your classmates. Make friends and share your notes, because sometimes, back in our day, our professors didn't share the PowerPoints, so we had no idea of what was gone over. And when it was coming up to midterm time, they would just be like, okay, so it's over chapter 2, 3, 9, and half of 13 for textbooks we never bought, right?
Yeah.
So share notes, be collaborative with your classes. Do that open source Google Doc situation that the kids are doing nowadays. It is so useful. I cannot stress enough.
Do not buy textbooks. Oh my goodness.
Don't buy it new.
Don't buy new textbooks. It is so tedious and annoying, I know, but I was poor growing up. I still
poor.
am. Yeah. Nothing has changed. I have a job, but I'm still poor. But I would spend like an hour a day at the library photocopying whatever chapter we were talking about in class.
I would just take pictures on my phone.
I needed a physical like paper, so I would scan it and
it's not like I looked at those pictures anyway. Like, I'm not even going to front.
That is fair. And I did not pay for a textbook for a lot of my classes. Some classes you can't find the textbooks.
And some of them need the code for online assessments,
which
whatever.
I think is a scam, but whatever.
Yeah, I really think it's ridiculous. Do take classes with your friends, though.
Absolutely.
But there are friends you know who does work. And then there are friends you just like to hang out with. Pick option A over B in this scenario.
Absolutely. Yes, having friends that you talk to is fun, but you will get absolutely no work done. And you will talk to each other, or you will convince each other to skip class. I know, because I had a friend B, and we skipped out on every Psych 101 class because it was an auditorium, so there was no attendance. And we would get to class, sit down. The professor would start talking. She would look at me and be like, "You want to dip?" And I'd be like, "Yes." And then our other friend who took the class with us, because that was his first semester at the school, would look at us leaving and was like, and then would follow us out because he was not going to be there alone.
Yeah.
So don't take classes with those friends, but definitely I had other friends that I knew if I took a class with them, if I forgot to do work, they had me covered. And if they forgot to do work, I had them covered. I wrote fun fact. You know how I talked about I wrote a 12-hour research paper an hour before I was due or whatever? So I took a class called Psychology of Advertisement. I hated that class so much for many reasons, which I will not disclose. But
I hate it for the industry.
But I could tell you stories about that class and that professor. It's ridiculous. But there was one midterm paper that we were supposed to write, and we were supposed to present it. And me and the friend that took the class with me, we did not know that it was due that day.
Oh, man.
So it was one of those 4-hour classes. So we had like a 10-minute intermission. And so we wrote the paper while other people were, because it was a group paper. So me and her wrote the paper while the other students were giving their presentations. And then it was our turn to go right before the intermission. And we told the professor that we didn't have a chance to print it out if we could just go right after the intermission. And so he was like, "Yeah, of course, no problem." Because some of the other students ran late anyway. And so during the intermission, we ran to the library to print out the paper and then came back. A paper we wrote while other people were giving the presentation. And because we couldn't even communicate with each other, we were just typing on the laptop. Then she would hand it to me and I would add something and hand it back to her. And then she would add something or change something. And we got a B.
Amazing. Hot tip, learn how your school printers work and how your credit system works. Because do not do like us, and for the first time you ever have to print out a paper to hand it in, go to print for the first time, swipe your card, and then the printer being like, "Not recognized. Please try again later." Try all the printers in the area to learn that you were not scanning your card right. Right? Learn how your printer system works.
Also learn where all the printers are.
Yes.
Because we didn't actually run to the library because that's another building. I just said library because it was easier, but we knew that on the 6th floor, so we had class on the 12th floor. On the 6th floor, there was a classroom that had printers.
Yeah.
So we ran to the 6th floor, printed the paper, and then ran upstairs back to the 12th floor. Yes, we ran up 6 flights of stairs to make it for this damn presentation. We presented and passed.
Another tip is be upfront with your professors. Your professors, especially if they're associate professors, are going to understand that you have a lot going on. You may have a job. You may have other life restrictions or obligations to take care of. A lot of professors are a lot more understanding than you think.
Yeah.
And if you are in a situation that you would need extra time for, or will deliver something just a bit late, let them know. And they'll most likely be understanding about what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the end of the day, it's not going to define your life if it's not something advanced like med school or, pharmacy or something like that. Like if you're just going in for a quote-unquote regular major, college is not that deep, university is not that deep, and to be honest, I feel like I had a lot of amazing social growth in university, but all my real world application came from the jobs that I was working with. Mm-hmm. Came from, those older people that I was working amongst and learning from them and their experiences. But school just taught me how to cram.
Yeah, information.
A lot of information.
It taught me how to
purge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But also don't be afraid to go to events, like club events, social events, career events, because that is how you meet people and that is how you get opportunities and get jobs and know what other places are looking for. If me and our mutual friend had never reached out to one of the professors, I would have never ended up working for his lab. So I would have never been a research assistant, which I was for a year and a half. And I really, really liked it. And I still apply some of the knowledge that I learned there in my everyday life, in my career currently, which has nothing to do with what I research. But when I talk about it,
yeah,
I people are fascinated. Like, whoa, you were a research assistant on that. And I'm like, yeah, I was. And that professor published a paper and I worked for him and it was really cool. And he was super sweet and super nice. And I don't think he works at the school anymore, actually. I think he graduated, got his PhD, and I think he's just moved on from
Yeah,
school.
but it's an amazing growth period. And I think my last piece of advice is do not cram an entire minor in a single semester. If you can afford not to do that, don't do that. I did it. And it was film, so it wasn't that bad. But yeah, it was a lot of paper writing, a lot of deep dive searches, and metaphors that you would look for in film and how imagery portrays emotions. Anyways, don't cram a semester as one entire minor if you don't have to.
But also take classes for things that you like. There are so many classes I regret not taking.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, it wasn't going to fit into my major, so it made no sense for me. You need electives to graduate anyway. You might as well take classes that you like or find interesting.
Yeah.
Or find, like, the best alternative to a class. Like, there was one elective I didn't have to take because I got credit for one semester that I was being the research assistant. So I was able to avoid taking one class. There was psychology classes that I didn't need because I already fulfilled my major quota. But I took it because it was so interesting, and I don't regret taking it.
But yeah, there is enough time to be an adult when you start, quote unquote, the working world. So use college, use university as a time to actually explore your interests and join a bunch of clubs, dabble in a bunch of things, and just
don't rush to
have
graduate.
fun.
And don't rush to graduate, because I was so scared of being in school for too long. Like, what is it going to be about? Like, what is it going to say about me if I'm still in school after 4 or 5 years?
Yeah.
Like, I need to graduate right now. And it doesn't let you actually enjoy your experience. Like, everyone is on their own timetable. It doesn't matter if it takes you 4 years, 5 years, 8 years to graduate.
Yeah.
Who cares? Are they paying for school? No. The government was paying for my school, so I had to graduate. But...
No, I paid for school out of my own pocket, and that's the only reason why I didn't spend an extra semester, and it's the reason why I crammed 6 classes on top of 30-hour work weeks into the same couple of years. But had I had the flexibility to spend that extra semester, I would have done it. But all in all, my C's, my D's, they gave me this whole degree, so... Yeah, again, unless you're going into a field that specifically looks at where you graduated from, what your
or
GPA...
like requires like continuous school.
Yeah, it honestly doesn't matter that much. Not one employer that I've worked for asked to see my degree ever.
Yeah,
they're just like word, and that was it.
Which is kind of scary.
Yeah, but we're just all figuring it out as always. So. With that, I hope you've enjoyed this ramble. Hope you've had some good tips, tricks, and whatnot. Hope you're staying safe. Hope you're staying well. And let us know what your college university experiences were like. What are the hot tips that you have for people? Let us know. Leave a review. Rate us on wherever you listen to your podcasts and whatnot. And hope that things are going better for you than they are for us at the moment. That being said, we will catch you guys next time. Bye.